All right, welcome back to On Patrol with Suffolk County PBA. I'm CJ Hutter.
I'm Tanner Brandamorty.
And today we have Jimmy Johnson with us. He's the president of the Brotherhood for the Fallen, the Suffolk County chapter. Thanks for joining us today, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so just tell us a little about yourself and how you got the Brotherhood for the Fallen started and
Sure.
your journey to being the president of it all.
Sounds good. So I'm a Suffolk County police officer. I started here in Suffolk County in 2010. Before that, I was actually a federal air marshal for about 5 years with the Homeland Security. And I came out to Suffolk County in 2010. And the one thing that struck me, the difference between the two law enforcement careers was the level of camaraderie out here in Suffolk County that we didn't necessarily have in the federal system. So just getting through the gates, I was pretty kind of impressed with how we kind of took care of one another and looked out for one another. So that was always in the back of my mind. I started off my career in the 1st Precinct in patrol. I bounced around a little bit between crime section, gang, different units there. I was a detective for a few years, and now I'm actually back in the 1st Precinct as a sergeant in Squad 1. But what really keyed me up for the Brotherhood was, when a police officer is killed anywhere in our area, everyone goes out for it, right? So, it's a city cop, Suffolk County's there, Nassau County's there, Westchester, you name it. And I'd never seen that before when I was in federal law enforcement, and that really stuck with me. And one day we went to a funeral for 2 New York City police officers who were killed. It was Officer Lou and Officer Ramos. I'm sure you guys remember.
Yes,
they were assassinated in Brooklyn. So while we're there, a bunch of us end up seeing these cops, not from our area, with funny little uniforms and funky cowboy hats. And we start talking to those guys, and they were from the Harris County Sheriff's Office in Texas. Really good dudes. And again, the camaraderie, they came all the way from Texas to come and support the NYPD in conjunction with the rest of the law enforcement community to pay their respects. And that really struck us. And unfortunately, about 6 months, maybe a year after we met those guys, one of those officers, Deputy Darren Goforth, was shot and killed in the line of duty in Harris County.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So, having that connection with those guys, the department gave their blessing, and actually the PBA was fantastic. They supported it and funded it. They sent about 25 or 30 of us to Harris County to attend the funeral of Deputy Goforth. And while we were there, we're looking around and we see another group of guys with some funky hats and different uniforms with little checkered marks on their hats. And they were the Chicago Police Department. So we start talking to those guys, and they see our patches, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are probably from the Brotherhood for the Fallen in New York, right?" And I'm like, "What the hell's that?" Mm-hmm. They were like, "Oh, it's an organization that we started in Chicago in 2010, and basically, it's anytime there's an officer that's killed anywhere in the United States violently during the commission of their duties, we send uniformed officers to attend, and we also provide the family with a monetary donation." We were sold right away. I was like, that sounds awesome. That was 2016. I asked to get the information on it. They put me in contact with Rick Caballero. He is the president and founder of the Chicago chapter, and he's the guy who basically spurred this on to become a national organization. Started talking to Rick. He explained to me how the setup works. I met up with Damon and a bunch of other board members that we collectively found throughout the county that were willing to get involved. We created a nice tight board. We talked to then Commissioner Sinney and then Chief Stu Cameron. They were 100% on board with us doing this. And we established the chapter back in 2016, and we've been going strong ever since.
That's great. So I've always known about some of the local chapters, but there's a national board as well?
Yeah, so that's something that kind of is relatively new. There's 10 chapters nationally. See if I can rattle them all off. Chicago started it. Aurora, Colorado was shortly thereafter. They've now since merged into an entire state of Colorado chapter.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yep. Then you had NYPD. You had Fort Worth, Texas, Dallas, Texas. They have separate chapters. You've got Boston. You've got the whole state of South Carolina, the whole state of Arkansas. Oh, man, who am I missing?
Well, you didn't mention us yet.
Suffolk County, and I'm missing one more.
It's impressive that you're able to run off so many.
Yeah. Forgive me for who I'm missing. It'll come to me in a second. So anyway, basically after the national chapters, we grew so many to be about 10. We now have a national council meeting once a year. So basically all the chapters meet up once a year. We hosted it this year in Suffolk County at Oheka Castle. It was awesome. And we all kind of discuss what's going on. Everyone's got their own individual bylaws based on their local police culture, but as long as everyone sticks to the relative mission of, you attend the violent line of duty deaths nationwide, in uniform, and you provide a monetary donation to the families. That's kind of the bare minimum to be kind of a national organization. The other thing is logistically, you have to make sure you have enough membership to get the job done. That's why some of the smaller jobs, they kind of collectively form a state organization because they don't have enough, people. So we meet once a year. This year we met at Oheka Castle. We hosted it. We had Acting Commissioner Waring give a presentation, and we had a bunch of our officers that were injured in the line of duty here in Suffolk County attend. And Sergeant Billy Madden actually gave a fantastic presentation about our MedCat unit and how that's unique to Suffolk County.
Yeah, we're a little spoiled in Suffolk County with that MedCat unit. They've saved so many of our cops' lives, and not just the cops, but the general public out there too. They're real miracle workers out there. But with the national board, do you guys envision growing into the future? Like, do you set up like a game plan? This is what we want to accomplish in the next 12 months.
Yeah, so we've had a couple of ideas, and mostly like here in Suffolk County, we're extremely fortunate. We're the largest chapter in the United States. We have about 2,700 members.
Does that include like the statewide organizations as well?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're the largest in the country by far, and it's just a testament. And nothing against the other organizations nationwide. They're fantastic. But I just think like our law enforcement community, our camaraderie here in Suffolk County, it's very special.
That's incredible. It's such a nice thing to hear too, especially for people that have never worked in another job, right? Because we have plenty of cops here that they got hired right here in Suffolk County and they've never worked anywhere else. Yeah, I came from the city. Tanner came from the city.
Yes, we did.
You had the federal, so you have something to compare it to.
Correct.
And we really do have a great culture here.
We're very tight. Our culture is very unique, and I think that's why we're the largest, right? So that being said, we're not really, we do pretty well financially because, all the membership dues that come in, we have a couple of fundraisers a year. We're pretty good. Unfortunately, other organizations in the national setting aren't as successful as with fundraising, right? So one of the things we talked about at the national meeting is how we can kind of get those guys up to the level where they can participate more and have more financial support. So one of the things we were floating around is like kind of like a collective national merchandising campaign where the proceeds go to the other chapters who aren't as solvent as like some of the bigger chapters. So that's one thing. We also talk about like recruitment efforts. We've been in contact for a few years now with Nassau County PD. Commissioner Ryder is a huge supporter. We have a number of officers in Nassau County that we've been working with to try to set up a chapter there because they're similar in size and scope. Hopefully that takes off. But yeah, that's one of the things we do. We talk about different parts of the country that would be willing to create a chapter so we can kind of grow this.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And I know like in Nassau County specifically, here in Suffolk, Stu Cameron was such a big supporter of helping build this and really develop it. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Stu has a kid that's a cop over in Nassau.
Jimmy Cameron. I believe he's presently in Nassau County Highway Patrol, but he was the one that we were working with. He kind of got it off the ground, recruited a couple of different people to get involved as well. So hopefully that comes to fruition sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it just shows the importance of the networking and how you never know how one connection could lead to another connection to help develop something over time that could help everybody. Because this is really something that it doesn't just help the families that are touched by the line of duty deaths personally, but it also helps the members of the police departments because they see the support from around the country and they feel that brotherhood come to help, hold them up, pick them up during a hard time when they're going through something difficult that, they might have just lost somebody that they've known personally for the last 10 years.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting that you were talking about Lou and Ramos, that fallen incident, because that touched a lot of people. I think that a lot of people saw that, and that could really be anybody. They were assassinated.
Correct.
Yeah, that could have been any cop. You're right.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting one too, because I was actually still a city cop when that happened, and I was supposed to work a detail for a protest because of the it was like some sort of protest about some sort of police incident that happened somewhere in the country, and we were all mustering up to go to our posts when they were assassinated.
It's crazy.
And we all got post changed to the crime scene.
Yeah.
So I was on that crime scene like an hour after they were both
assassinated. And you know what's crazy
assassinated.
about that story? To actually bring it back to Suffolk County, it's bizarre. I don't usually tell people this, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but I was working that day. I was doing a day tour in the 1st Precinct. And I get a call for a check on the welfare for an off-duty NYPD cop who is in a bad way and has his firearm with him. I make entry into the apartment, and this cop was on his hands and knees, crying his eyes out. Firearms nearby, some bottles. He was supposed to be working in that car that day.
Oh my God.
He was late, and they just said, just bang in. And they put, I don't remember if it was Lou or if it was Ramos, but one of those guys took this kid's place in that car.
Wow, that's incredible. That goes, you hear it all the time with like the military guys, like survivor's guilt.
Correct.
Right?
And that poor kid, and like I told him that day when I walked in there, I sat down next to him. I'm like, there's nothing I could say to you right now that's going to make it better. The only thing I could say is that everyone that works with you and everyone that's here in Suffolk County knows that this is not your fault. That could happen to any one of us, and you're never going to live that down. I'm not going to tell you you are. I'm not going to tell you that that's going to go away, but just know that no one's holding you accountable for what happened.
Yeah, and it goes along with all the mental health stuff that we've been trying to concentrate on for the last couple of years. Like, it can't go, it can't be underemphasized how important the mental health is for police officers now, and how we could develop, taking care of each other more in the future.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's been huge at the 2nd Precinct. I work at the 2nd Precinct. We had last year 2 suicides, and it's difficult to deal with. And sometimes on this job, as we know, it takes over our lives.
It does.
It's hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's as a supervisor now too. I bring that up to a lot of our younger officers too, because before this I was in the military, right? So I deployed to Iraq. The one thing that somebody brought up in the academy years ago, it's very true. When you're a military person, you deploy and you're exposed to a lot of trauma. You get to come back and you get a decompression period. When's our decompression period?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
After 20 years, 30 years when we retire. I mean, yeah, we get vacations, but is that really a
no vacations long enough to get away from the job?
Correct. So like, you know how it is. So like every day you go to work, every encounter you have, whether it's a minor adversarial back and forth, or like a couple of weeks ago, we had a couple of young guys that are brand new on the job that had to do CPR on a 3-month-old that expired. And I pulled them aside. I'm like, listen, man, I know you guys are tough guys. I get it. And that's good. I'm not, but this isn't going to bother you today. It might not bother you this month. 5 months from now, it might hit you like a ton of bricks, because every time you come to work, a little bit more gets chipped away at you. Mm-hmm. This is not a job where you could compartmentalize things forever and it doesn't ever blow over. It's going to hit you. You're going to start getting angry. I'm like, and there's going to be different ways to deal with it. Just be cognizant that it's okay. It doesn't make you weak that all of a sudden now you're upset about something. And I like to drive that home to these guys, because no one ever did that to us, right?
Oh, no, 100%.
I never got that when I was in the military, and I never got it when I first got into law enforcement.
We all had to be that tough guy exterior.
It's like basically suck it up, and that's not the right answer.
No, it's certainly not.
That speaks to the brotherhood too, though. A lot of cops wind up hanging out with each other a lot of times because we deal with the same stuff at work, and it's easier to talk to another cop about what's going on in your life or what you dealt with on a call, because maybe they've been there before.
Correct.
Right. You relate together a little bit more. Somebody who's works hard swinging a hammer, it doesn't necessarily relate to the same work stresses that we have.
Correct. And that's why, again, that's like the silver lining to the Brotherhood for the Fallen, because now you're sharing experiences and stories with people from other parts of the country, and they're the same, right? You might wear different patches, you might wear different colors, but you're doing the same type of work and you're exposed to the same type of trauma on a regular basis. And it's almost like a relief valve for guys, because it's like, oh shit, sorry.
No, it's all right.
They're like, this guy in Kansas kind of does the same thing I do, and he has the same experiences, and it kind of shows that it's it kind of levels the playing field out a little bit for guys. And I know that that's one thing that they like. I'll talk to guys that have traveled to funerals, and they make lifelong friends, which is huge. Yeah.
Now, do you notice that when you go on these Brotherhood deployments, that do you interact with the families a lot too? Is it more just the members of the departments?
It's a lot of families too, and that's actually kind of it's unique for a lot of people too, because nothing against the way that we do line of duties here in New York, but I mean, we have geographic constraints, right? So like, we're not going into the venue typically, unless you work directly in that person's command, right? So a lot of times our line of duties are thousands of cops out in the street. And then, we take the break, we go to the coffee truck, we come back, and it's great, but it's a little impersonal. When you go out of state to one of these, you get introduced to the widow, to the mom, to the brother, to the child. And they grab you and hug you, and they look at that patch and they say, you came all the way here for my family member. I'll never forget, I went to Wayne State University, police officer Colin Rose, canine officer, shot and killed in the line of duty in Michigan. And they brought me into the venue and sat me right with his family. And she broke down and looked at our patches. And like, I always get choked up. I tell the kids in the academy the story all the time. Like, what do you say to that woman? She just hugged us. Like, I can't believe you came from New York. I can't believe you came from Chicago, from Colorado for Colin. And like, you'll never forget that. So it's extremely impactful to those families, because they feel like they're not forgotten and they're not alone.
Right. And that goes along with their mental health too, with all this. It's not always just the cops that deal with the mental health issues because of the repeated stressors that we deal with. But
families get crushed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, we have a bad day at work. What do? We take it home.
Right. 100%.
And we're not doing it deliberately, but it spills over and it impacts our families too.
It's the nature of things.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
You get home and your spouse is asking you, oh, what happened at work today? And most of the time you're expecting a happy answer, right? I helped somebody with this or whatever the case. But when you have a bad day,
I tell people, typically people don't call 911 because they're having a good day in their life, right? So we're not usually showing up for positive interactions.
Right.
And you put all those interactions in a bucket. After 10, 15, 20 years, that bucket overflows.
A lot of times we just say we're fine too. And then all of a sudden one day where you get a really bad incident, then it's not fine. And all of a sudden now you're taking it out on them.
It's huge. Yeah. And like I said, you guys have done a fantastic job. And I know the department and the county is working on, better ways to cope with it because it's necessary. It's not, this is not your typical profession. It really isn't.
What could we do to help you continue to expand? Like what's missing from Brotherhood for the Fallen right now?
The biggest thing that we have an issue with, and we've had an issue with it for some time, is actually getting volunteers to travel. Because, and I get it, right? We have a large membership pool, but funerals are pretty spontaneous, unfortunately, right? Like we can't plan them in advance. So, we'll get like a day or two notice and we're putting out feelers to try to get people to attend these funerals, and it's very difficult. I know we've been working with you guys on trying to get some kind of days established for some of the PBA members, because that's the biggest impediment that these guys bring up is like, I can't use my days. I'm out of days. And we get it. Right. So that's something we're trying to work on. We're also trying to, there's a lot of like apprehension because they're afraid like, oh, I don't know how to do it. Like, so we want to try to let them know, like, we take care of everything. You don't have to do anything. You just give me your name and your date of birth and we take care of the travel arrangements, lodging, rental cars. We get you a point of contact. It's all the heavy lifting's done for you. You just have to show up in uniform and then present the.
That's so easy. Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem we have is getting newer members or people who haven't traveled before to travel. We have a good core group of especially retirees that we rely on. They're fantastic. When we're in a bind and we can't get volunteers, a lot of those guys will attend on our behalf, which is wonderful. But it'd also be nice to get some of the newer officers out there to even just to see that experience up close. And it's a tragedy and it's a terrible experience. But on the other side, it's actually a very rewarding experience. And everyone that we've talked to that's done it, it really sticks with them. Right.
We were talking about culture earlier, and part of maintaining that culture is to make sure some of the newer guys coming in do the same things that the older guys already did, and kind of just carrying that torch.
Guys who haven't seen something like Lou and Ramos, that maybe didn't touch them as much as like us being on the city job, and they might not see that. They need to know how important it is for you to show up, for the families really, to have that experience, that to know that other people are there for them that aren't even on the same job, don't live in the same state.
And it's actually good. It's actually a good coping mechanism. Like I think you mentioned it kind of earlier. You touched on it. It's for us as well, right? Like, because that could be us, right? So now you attend that funeral in Indiana, and you see that outpouring, and you kind of have that like in the back of your mind, like, God forbid anything happened to me. This is like,
right. Look at this. I'm a part of something bigger than myself.
Correct. Nationwide, people are going to respond to it. My family's going to be cared for. People are going to look out for it. It's kind of like a comforting in a way. So I tell guys all that too. That it's something to keep in the back of your mind. That this is not. I tell guys all the time, this isn't a job. This is a lifestyle. Like being a cop is a lifestyle. No, if you're doing this job right, you're always a cop. I mean, you don't turn that off, right? So it's a way of life. And that way of life does have consequences sometimes. So it's important to keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, 100%. Even if you want to turn it off, you can't, because there's always people that are asking you questions while you're off duty. Like, hey, so-and-so had an issue over. Should I call 911? Is this a police matter?
Yeah. Well, look at like the Chris Ranciopolo situation where that guy was retired, right? The former city guy was retired, or was off duty, and he stepped in and basically helped save his life.
Oh, yeah, that's a great example.
I've dealt with that before on duty, where guys that are off duty or guys that are retired have jumped in, and you're never truly done being a cop.
Yeah.
Right. It's a calling. You're doing what you're meant to do for a lot of guys, and you just never turn it off.
Yep.
Yeah. So with this national board that you guys have developed, what what is like the next step with that? Is it about recruiting more chapters? Is it about getting more involvement from the chapters that are existing?
So I think right now the priority is getting the chapters that are already in existence that are struggling, kind of getting them up to par, right? And again, it's tough because everyone's got a different police culture. There's also different rules and regulations, right? So some chapters, they're mandated overtime, and there's no discretionary time off even to attend the line of duty funeral. So some chapters miss it because they don't have manpower to staff the cars. So trying to come up with different ways to either branch those chapters out so they can get bigger and pull in other jobs that can kind of pick up the slack. And then funding is a big thing with them too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting to try to, cooperate with other jobs. And like you said, they all have different rules, different operating procedures. Are there any national groups that are helping you make it easier on some of those organizations that have a difficult time?
Not really. We're mostly internalized. Like, we just kind of work the problems that are on our own. I know that there's certain police unions in other parts of the country that do support some of the local chapters, but that's not it's not
none of the federal organizations, like none of the NAPO or FOP or UCOPS.
No, I mean, I haven't had direct interaction with them, but I think maybe like Rick might have, and I think there's like a cordial relationship, but there's nothing that's like where they're actually like supporting it.
No real coordination to help make it grow.
Excuse me. Yeah, correct. The one thing that I always tell those guys too, and certain jobs can't do it, is the thing that's huge with us is we have so much cooperation from the department and the county. So we could do payroll deductions, right? So to this day, we still only charge $2 a paycheck. So that's $52 a year. But we have 2,700 members. Some of these other chapters nationally, we've recommended that they sit down with their respective departments and county government to kind of set something like that up, because it really is so much easier. Like, I know the city has a problem because they won't let them do payroll deductions.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm surprised the city can't pull that off.
Yeah, that was a big issue. And then the other thing too, we also have a fantastic relationship with the department where they allow us to go into the police academy early on. Like, because we're not considered a fraternal organization, because, nothing against fraternals. Fraternals are fantastic. And I tell guys that all the time. Admiral Society, Guardians, Colombian, you name it. Awesome. But we have a different mission set, right? So all the money that comes in goes right back out. Even when we do merchandise sales and fundraisers, that all is to staff travel to funerals and donations to the families. The money doesn't go anywhere else. So because of that, they give us our own day at the academy early on where we can get everybody signed up while they're all in one place before they get disseminated out across different commands, and then we hold on to that until they graduate. Then we submit it to payroll. That's huge. We recommended other jobs do that, but believe it or not, certain departments have a little more of an adversarial relationship with their chapters.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and not all of them let them go into the academy. They say, no, you can do it on your own time when they get out on the streets.
I can't believe anybody would be against something like this.
Yeah. Well,
it defies common sense.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention names, but there's certain certain chapters that their local government might not be the most pro-police, I'll put it that way.
Right. And we kind of talk about that in the PBA office all the time, how the anti-police sentiment has spilled over into ways that it really shouldn't.
Yeah.
And for an organization like this, where it means so much to mental health, not just the cops, but to the civilians too, it really should get more support from any elected official, no matter where you are.
Yeah, and like I said, regardless of political affiliation here in Suffolk County, we've always enjoyed support, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, whatever. No one's had a problem with our organization. We appreciate that. That can't be said for the other chapters, unfortunately.
Right. And with those other chapters, they're dealing with media that always harps on anti-police stories when they pop up, and they're not reporting on the 99.99% of the positive things police do every day.
And even the 1% that they report on, I would submit that a lot of times they're just not understanding what actually went on.
Right. They take things
automatically vilifying somebody without looking at the totality of the circumstances. And that's problematic as well.
It's amazing how the media plays such a huge role in everything that touches anything involving policing now.
Yeah. They don't understand what it's like to be a cop.
Right.
That's why I'm a huge proponent of ride-alongs. And I'm also a huge proponent of the Civilian Academy. I'm sure you guys have heard the stories. You take some of these local politicians that might not be the most friendly toward policing, and you put them in shoot, don't shoot munitions scenarios. And
it's a different ballgame.
They fire when we would look at them sideways, like, why did you pull your weapon? Right. Why'd you fire? But even that little bit of stress in a controlled environment, it gives them a moment of pause. Like, oh, I wasn't supposed to. Yeah, no, you just assassinated that person. Like,
right. Yeah,
you're getting indicted. That's how real life.
This is the real world. You're getting indicted. You're the next top story on CNN.
You're vilifying us for something that's not even similar to what you just did. But it's an eye opener. The Civilian Academy is an eye opener to people that otherwise would vilify us. Like, oh, wow, my heartbeat was up this high just in a training environment. What do you think his heartbeat's up when he's going to knock on that door for the domestic?
Right, when it's real.
Or like last night on the 3 to 11, we had a swatting call. We didn't know it was a swatting call. It came over that I just shot and killed my girlfriend and I have the weapon in my hand. Be those cops that are showing up to that pulled that kid out of the house at gunpoint. It turned out that he had a beef with somebody on a video game and they called it a swatting call. But like, could you imagine how that could have went wrong?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure that our police handled it professionally.
Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Textbook.
And no one would hear about that if you didn't bring that up.
Exactly. A textbook response.
Those everyday things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was he was taken out at gunpoint. Thank God he complied, and then we sussed out what happened, and it is what it is. But like, take that scenario that could have went differently. But still, like that's what we're working with. We're working off of the limited information we have at the time of that call, and we're expected to make split-second decisions. And you want us to be right 100% of the time, the way you Monday morning quarterback it after you have the full pick. Yeah, so it's,
and I'm glad you bring that up too, because you say thank God the way he complied. Because a lot of the times right now, the issue we're having is not actually the way the police are responding; it's the way the person involved is responding to us, and they're not complying fully. Correct. They're not following verbal instructions. And that very often it's really the lack of compliance that leads to this front page news story.
Yeah. Well, again, had that guy kept his hands in his pockets or reached for something, what could have happened? And would we be wrong? I would submit no, we would not have been wrong based on the totality of the circumstances and the information we had during our response. And now we're actually looking at his non-compliant behavior. You know what I mean? So like, but again, people that aren't in this environment, they don't see it that way. They only get the cop shot and killed somebody.
The sound bites.
Correct.
It's never black and white. It's always gray on this job.
That's why I like, again, you put people that ordinarily aren't in that scenario, you give them the Civilian Academy, you show them, and it's a lot of positive feedback from the people that I talked that attended. Like, yeah, wow, I never thought about like what you guys have to deal with. It's like, and you do it every day. Yeah, you did it for 2 or 3 weeks. We do it every day,
right,
for 20 plus years. So yeah, it's huge.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah.
So what? I get that we do it really good here in Suffolk County. We have the largest chapter in the country, which it is great considering the camaraderie it shows on our job. It's a little sad because we're not really the biggest job out there either. It'd be great to see more cooperation from the bigger jobs that are out there. Does the national organization talk about like getting those bigger jobs more heavily invested in this, more involved so that we could grow exponentially over time?
So like, especially like the West Coast departments like LA County Sheriff's Office, LAPD, we're trying to get them kind of keyed in because those are pretty big jobs. Unfortunately, like the NYPD chapter, I think a lot of it has to do with the adversarial relationship that they have with the city about getting, more people participating in that. So I think a lot of that has to do with even like Chicago as well too. You have certain cities or certain geographic areas that aren't really police friendly, and it kind of handcuffs how far you can expand and how many members you can actually attain.
You would think the city would be more on board with it because they see a lot of it. It's a big job, and a lot of guys get injured because it's a dangerous job. They get injured and killed. So you'd think that they would the politics would be set aside to get something done in that area in particular. But you're saying it doesn't happen.
It doesn't. So. It seems like it's definitely a hindrance. I'll put it that way. I mean, because if those guys got their own academy day, for instance, once a year, how many academies go through it? Probably 2 or 3 a year. Right?
Yeah, they probably do 2 a year. Yeah.
I mean, there's your staffing right there. Like as far as getting new members and stuff like that. Because think about it, it's very difficult for the city out here. Let's say we didn't have that academy protocol. I could drive to every precinct. You could drive to every precinct. We could probably make it work where we can go and reach out and touch all the commands. How are you going to do that in the city?
Yeah,
even if you have 15 people on your board to go to every precinct, every command in the city, it's going to be tough.
And it's not just every precinct, but you got to hit every tour, right? And they work all different sorts of tours, right? If you're in anti-crime, you're not doing the same 3 to 11 as the patrol 3 to 11.
So I think if they had more support, from the politicians there'd be a better way to kind of get recruitment and sustainment going than they have now.
Do you talk to the city chapter president about that at all? Does he feel like the pendulum's coming back at all? Does he feel like he might be able to get more buy-in from the city and from the administration to help with recruitment?
I think he's a little more optimistic now, yeah. But I mean, I know I've had personal conversations with him where that's the issue. It's they won't do payroll deductions. They won't let him go to the academy on a regular basis. Sometimes they'll let him start going to the academy, but then all of a sudden they'll change the schedule on him. And, there's no consistency there. And that's a big part of the problem, is just getting the exposure to share with the organization. I mean, you could do social media. You could only do that so much, but there's nothing like being in front of somebody personally and be like, hey, this is what we do. I could send out an email to everybody in the county, but let's face it, isn't everybody going to be as responsive as if I was talking to them in person?
Probably not.
Right. And on social media, a lot of times that message gets lost. Not everybody always sees your message on their feed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you're not ever going to touch everybody with that way. It's definitely another avenue to help, but you're not going to touch everybody with social media. What could public people, because this is going to be seen in the public, it's not just closed off to our members. What could a business owner that wants to support the organization, what could they do to help? Yeah, so I mean, they could reach out to any one of us. They can go on our website, Brotherhood for the Fallen, SuffolkCountyNY.org. I know it's a mouthful. We're talking about abbreviating it, but Suffolk County, Brotherhood for the Fallen, SuffolkCountyNY.org. We have a page on there for sponsorships, where basically you could buy a sponsorship, we'll promote your business. You could just do a summary donation, just monetary. That's huge because a lot of people don't realize we're successful, and we do fairly well financially, but it's a lot in logistic costs. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I want to say something like, since we started, almost $500,000, maybe more, in paying for flights, hotels, rental cars, tolls, gas, that sort of thing. Yeah, $2 a check from every cop doesn't necessarily cover all that. No, and then even if we do, we try to limit ourselves to like maybe 1 or 2 like large scale fundraising events a year. Even that we do well, but I mean, it's the money's coming in, but it's going right out. And then right now we're very fortunate. We donate $2,500 for every family that we attend that funeral. But now do the math on that. So I think we're north of $700,000 that we've donated to families since we started in 2016. Yeah, incredible. So that's what it's there for. Again, like that's why we don't use the money for anything else. It's there to pay for officers to travel, and it's there to donate to the families, but it gets expensive. So, I mean, we're always looking for any kind of financial donation. Any bit helps. $10 here. If you multiply that by 20 people that donate $10, that's a hotel room. The private donor, the little mom and pop shops. But I've also seen the big donations coming in from bigger companies like Claire Rose. They did that $50,000 donation last year. Yeah, we have a number of I always recommend, because I wouldn't be able to rattle all these companies off the top of my head, but we always recommend going to our website and looking at our donors page where we promote these organizations. But we have a number of large-scale organizations that donate to us regularly, and we really appreciate that. Oh, that's great.
Do you guys share the events you guys do on the website as well?
So our next event's going to be April 30th of this year. It's going to be at the Paramount. Again, it's a
great event every year. I've been there a number of times.
Speaking of a good organization, the Paramount's been fantastic. They've always been huge supporters of us. They take care of us, and we've done our event there every year for the last, 6+ years or so.
Yeah, and that party always ends up being a who's who of Suffolk County.
Yeah, it's definitely
elected officials, police department officials.
Yeah, it's our biggest event, and we always are ecstatic by how many people we have attend that. It's a good night. Yeah.
It always is.
And this year, we're actually going to be, we try to, every year, I'm sure you guys remember, we try to highlight somebody that's done something pretty remarkable for the organization and just policing in general. We do like a Man of the Year type of, or Person of the Year type of recognition. This year, we're going to be recognizing Dr. Voswinkle.
Oh, that's great.
So, I mean, I'm sure everybody that listens to this knows who he is. We actually tried to get him to speak at our national meeting so we could share what he does with the outside agencies, and he had a scheduling conflict, but Billy Madden came in and did a fantastic job. But we're very unique here in Suffolk County to have somebody like him that works in conjunction with our MedCat unit. And I mean, everybody knows we could rattle off a dozen names that we didn't have to go to funerals because of him.
Yeah, we say it all the time. He saved more police lives in Suffolk County than bulletproof vests. Like it's incredible the work he's done and how he's developed the MedCat unit. I mean, I can't think of anybody more deserving than Dr. Voss.
This year we wanted to honor him because, and the other thing is he comes to every Brotherhood event we have. He donates his time. He donates his money to us as well. He's a huge supporter of the Brotherhood for the Fallen. And he's actually prevented us from having to have memorial services here in Suffolk County. So no better person that we could think of for this year, especially after what just happened to Gallagher.
Yeah, just recently.
And that's actually 2 times.
The second time he has helped save Brendan Gallagher's life. We'll probably have to find a spot
for that kid where
that kid is a bull. It's incredible the recovery he's already made, and they're expecting him to just continue recovering.
I mean, with the catastrophic injuries he sustained, just to see him like smiling, and it looked like he was going to pop out of that chair, and he's not going to be like, "Oh, let's go."
When you see Brendan and how he's acting now, it's just that is how you put a value on what Dr. Voswinkle does for us.
And MedCat,
MedCat's fantastic.
Dennis O'Connor crawled into that car with him and helped prevent some bleeding while they were working on getting him out of the car. He was trapped in there for almost 40 minutes. It's incredible.
It's amazing. So that whole program, the whole MedCat program, Dr. Voss, his passion, I mean, it's awesome. And we share that. Like, that's why Billy Madden did a fantastic presentation about MedCat to share the other chapters. Like, hey, we have cops that actually are critical care paramedics that are on duty to respond to things like this. And they're blown away. I got nothing but positive feedback. We got nothing but positive feedback from all the chapters that heard Billy Madden speak and heard about our MedCat unit.
Were there any pushes by the other chapters to try to get a unit like that in their own job?
I believe so, yes. So that's one of the things when we do nationally, we try to highlight something unique about that organization or that part of the country. It's not just all talking about brotherhood stuff, it's also talking about the culture. So last year we went to Dallas, Texas, and they have a really cool mental health unit that they created. And I actually put some of our peer team people in touch with them because they run it. They're actually very proactive. One of the things that they do is they'll call everyone in the Dallas PD randomly just to check in. Like, even if you had no critical incident.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hey, what's up, man? Yo, this is Jimmy. I work over in the first. I'm just checking in, man. Everything cool? You want to bitch about anything? You want to, like, what's going on? Just to have that open line of communication. So the first time that they talk to them, it's not when they were in a shooting or when they had to,
this isn't
pick up body parts. Correct. So you kind of, they develop that familiarization with everybody on their job so that it's not like this mystique when they call you when you actually probably do need
That's great to hear. That's something that's thinking outside the box. It's really trying to change the way it was always dealt with in the past. That obviously has not been working.
So I know in the wake of, we had a couple of our suicides, I know, and we had just went to hear their presentation. I shared that with a bunch of people in the peer team. I was like, that might be a approach you guys might want to look at, just like random cold calls, like, hey, just checking in. I mean, listen, the reality is most cops can be like, hey, I'm good, whatever. But in the back of their minds, like, they've heard that voice before,
Right.
So that was pretty cool. And then we wanted to share something that's unique to us. So we highlighted the MedCat team and they were very receptive. So whether or not they could, exact change in their departments or, bring that up, I don't know, but yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Anytime you have an opportunity to learn how other jobs do something, because we obviously don't do everything the best in the country, right? There's some stuff that some jobs are going to do better than us. So it's great to always keep an open mind and try 100%. To learn as much as we can from anybody.
The other thing I tell guys and girls all the time too is like the silver lining to the Brotherhood for the Fallen is now you have contacts all over the country. I don't know where your career is going to take you, right? You might be content on patrol. And that's great. That's fantastic. Some of the best people I've ever met on this job did 20, 30 years on patrol. But you might have aspirations to go into different, specialized commands. I was a detective in human trafficking for a number of years. And the silver lining through the Brotherhood for the Fallen is anytime I had a case that touched a different state or a different jurisdiction, I didn't have to call teletype to request information. I could pick up the phone and call somebody that I knew that I met at a funeral. Hey, dude, can you do me a favor? I'm looking at this guy. He was actually in Colorado for a few. Yeah, no problem, bro. Within 2 minutes, I have an email of police files that are, relevant to what I'm working on. So I tell people all the time, you're making connections all over the country that could actually be fruitful in your careers, depending on where you go.
Oh, 100%. And that it's thinking outside the box too, right? It's taking anything you have in your toolbox to do whatever you can to help the community and help solve the cases to make everybody safer in the end.
It's a two-way street, right? So like, it's funny. A few months ago, there was a Fort Worth officer that reached out. One of his relatives' daughter was being preyed upon online, and they started a case there, and the perpetrator was in Suffolk County. So instead of call, and let's be real, like that could get lost in translation if you try to call the 1-800 number, not the 1-800, the department headquarters line, or you call the precinct of occurrence. Like you might not.
You're taking the middleman there.
Yeah, I don't know who's on the phone. Are you messing with me? Like, so nothing would have happened, but he knew me through the Brotherhood for the Fallen, tells me what he got. I took care of it, called up a contact in computer crimes, and within, I think, 48 hours, they actually arrested the guy. And
That's great.
He was charged with trying to basically lure this child, also some child pornography offenses, and I think he's looking at like 5 to 10. All from a phone call from the Brotherhood for the Fallen.
And those are the kinds of things, like you're taking a child predator off the street. And again, it's just another day at work. Another day at work where the cops are out there doing the right thing.
But had it not been for that Brotherhood connection,
right.
Who knows? It might have worked out, but like, he might have went through his teletype and they went through our teletype. And you know how things get lost in translation, right. Or if you don't have that direct connection with somebody somewhere, there's less of a chance it's going to be successful. This guy knew me through the Brotherhood, called me up. Yeah, I trust him. He trusts me. We bonded over something, outside of this job. And, yeah, no problem, man. I'm going to take care of it for you. I'm going to do the best I can. And then sure enough, you know the right people to push that to, and you get it done that way. So I tell people all the time that that's not why we do what we do, but it's the silver lining. It's a byproduct of what we do, right? It's these connections you make, they're going to pay dividends throughout your career, depending on what you want to do and where you want to go.
Yeah, the networking and sharing information is crucial on this job. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah,
100%. So, but before we get going, is there anything else you want to add? Something you feel like we didn't touch on that could help the organization grow? Anything that we could do differently to help you?
Our biggest thing is just getting people to travel. If we can just push that message that when we send out those texts and those emails, please, if you can, and I know it's difficult, everybody's got personal lives, we really need people to attend, because the money's nice that we give to the families, but nothing will replace that pizza patch, standing in formation, out of state, and those loved ones looking and saying, and everybody knows Suffolk County. Mostly for good reasons, some for, we've had some of our share of stories out there, but everybody knows who we are, right? And they are floored that you made that trip to come from Long Island all the way to wherever they are and be with their family. So like, that's a big thing. The other thing I'll say is that the unions, the PBA has been fantastic since we started. You guys are awesome, always supportive. The SDA, the SOA, fantastic. The department, no matter who is in power in the administration, the current administration's fantastic. Hopefully the newly appointed Commissioner Catalina, he's come to all of our events. He's a huge proponent of us. Acting Commissioner Waring, again, home run, loves us. And we always have gotten along with the county executive's office too, regardless of who's in power. So we have a lot of support, both departmentally and locally in government, and we really appreciate that. And then lastly, I guess just we would love to have everyone attend the event on April 30th. I mean, we hope to pack that place out to capacity if we can. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that event.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Every year I look forward to that one.
Yep. And, Brotherhood for the Fallen, thank you for everything that you guys do. It's one of the great organizations, not just in the police world, but just period. It's just good for people, right? The mental health aspect that we touched on. You're really doing some great work out there.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for all your help. Thanks for having us today too. Appreciate it.
Jimmy, can you just share like your social media and your website page? One last time before you head out.
Social media is going to be, Brotherhood for the Fallen SCPD. That's on Instagram, and then Facebook, and then the website's going to be Brotherhood for the Fallen Suffolk County NY.org.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, Jimmy.